Welcome to the Choosing Happiness podcast with me, your host, Rüdrani Devi, the Happiness Lady. In these conversations, we will be discussing an uncommon way to find joy in your life with weekly special guests. Did you know you could choose your happy? Won't you come and play and discover how these magical tools could work for you? Let's do this! Well, hello, everybody out there in podcast land. It's me again, Rüdrani Devi, your host of the Choosing Happiness podcast. Let's do this, y'all. I am so excited today. My special guest, I saw him, I think it was Good Morning America, was talking about this inspirational dude, Oliver James. He's a trainer, gorgeous man. And I heard his story and I was like, I must have a conversation with this man on my podcast. So without further ado, y'all, Oliver James.
Hello. Oh, how are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. I am so happy you're here. And for those of you that are listening, you may want to jump over to YouTube and take a good look at this man because he is hot. And I'm not joking. He's like the real deal. Beautiful man, inside and out. So I'm not going to spoil the story because I want you to tell the folks out there in podcast land why you were even on Good Morning America and a little bit about your journey to choosing your happiness.
I was on Good Morning America because I struggle with reading, and I went viral on TikTok for letting everyone know the struggles that I go through. They picked up the energy that social media that was pushing off because everybody was kind of gravitating towards what's going on with this guy talking about he can't read to just see what's, is it real? Is it not? Like, is he, what was
Right.
going on in his life? And that's pretty much how, Good Morning America kind of picked up the liking to want to see, hey, what we're going to do with Oliver James. Like, what is he? Yeah.
What made you decide to actually learn how to read? What was it that actually drove you, and what was that journey like?
Well, it's always been something that I wanted to do because it's something I couldn't do. So when I kind of look at it now, I've always been trying to teach myself how to read. But that's because every situation that I went through, I went through many things in my life. Those were me reading because I couldn't read. So I was more of a learn by lesson type person. But when I learned it, I read it and I understood, But most people probably picked up most of their information from books at a young age because they went through the harder things. I got tired of making mistakes. I got tired of making the same simple mistakes that seemed like it was impossible to break out of. So I was on like a hamster wheel of doing the same exact things because I couldn't read. When you can't do something, you repeat the same thing over and over until you change the trajectory of your living. And that's literally what I had to do.
Wow. And the thing is you were so articulate. It's like you wouldn't know just listening to you that you even had a problem with reading. So did the school system fail you, or was it just your environment, or how did you get out of that rut? How did you find your way?
It's funny you say that I speak like very articulate. Those were, to me, that was a childhood joke. So when I was a child, I would mimic, and this is, I don't mean to, this might be a little controversy, but I'm going to say it anyways. I was mimicking white actors.
Oh, I love it.
I would mimic white actors. I would go and I would like mimic them. Like I would act their part, but they didn't speak like the people I grew up around. They didn't speak like me. We spoke a whole different type of dialect. It was called slang. That's what we spoke.
Sure.
I would be at home making fun of myself, like just dressing up, doing things, and just reenacting movies, when I was growing up. So they spoke very articulate. So I was copying them. Fast forward to today, I started to use that as my actual person. Like that's who I wanted to be. I wanted to speak articulate, but I spoke with slang because that was my environment. So I was trying to grow within my environment. I was like, I want to be the best slang talker in my environment because that's what people were kind of, gravitating towards. Yeah.
Wow. So who were your favorite character actors to mimic? I'm just curious.
You know what?
Now.
One of the first ones I would say was I remember being a kid and I would watch things like MacGyver. I would watch things like James Bond. I would watch. There was one of these shows back in the day where the dude had like a remote and he used to like travel the world or something. I forgot what that. Like there were these weird shows that I would buy. I think, and
Right.
I would just watch all these different shows, and 99% of the shows I loved, they didn't speak like me. Now, I loved Home Alone. You know, I loved. They didn't speak like me. I would watch that movie 1 million times. I probably watched these movies. 101 Dalmatians. I remember watching that movie every minute of the day, back to
Wow.
back. So like these people who spoke in the movies didn't speak like me. So when I was reenacting the
Right.
characters, I was changing my voice. I was changing my tone. I was changing who I was to fit the character. And then you fast forward to today, I can see that there are people who grew up in certain areas. Like for instance, if you're raised in New York, you can't drop your New York
Right.
accent for some reason if you've never practiced doing it. So like,
That's
yeah, so
true. I have friends that they talk like this
yeah,
from New York, and they're like, "Yo, Rue, how's
yeah,
it going?"
can't
You
change it.
know,
And
and
it's a very attractive accent, so you don't want to get rid of it completely, but you want to have
it,
different strengths. I want to be able to go to another country and have their tone of sound when I speak my English. And they're like,
wow.
"What? How do you sound like you're Spanish?" I'm like, "Oh, because I know how Spanish people pronounce English words. So I'm like, this is how I talk when I'm around you. I break when I'm around Spanish
That's
people. I break
funny.
it up. Like I'll be like, "Yo, what's up, man? Like, what you doing? Oh, what's that?" Like I change it, and like I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay." Like because they don't speak with a full dialect. It's just like, "Man,
Hmm.
that's amazing. Oh man, what's up, man? What's like?" And I talk with them like that. I don't keep speaking like
Right.
this. I change to their talking, so then they feel more comfortable. Like, oh, this dude, he respects my ways. Like he's willing to meet me halfway. So I noticed that was a
Right.
strength when I would go to different places and I would be able to meet them halfway in their world. It was an immediate acceptance, and I understood that for someone who can't read, that's a great strength. Go get a job interview. I can't speak slang. I gotta
Yeah.
speak proper. I got every job I've ever talked to on a phone.
Wow. Wow. Are they surprised when they actually
Heck
meet
yeah.
you that you sound the way you
Yeah. I mean,
do?
I'm for one. This I used to make fun of this. My friends used to make fun of me. I have a. They say they'd be like, "Man, you got a white name and you speak white." But then you also could speak. I'm
How
black. I'm like,
funny.
what's? I used to always say, "What's black speaking? What's white? I don't understand these things." I was like,
Oh, I
yeah,
adore
I
you.
understand that. So I was like, wow. But they were like, you have a name. Your name's Oliver James. So they were like, and they would be like, if you put your name on an interview and someone called you, man, you gonna get the job. Even if it was a doctor, you would know how to do it. I'm like, and
Right.
they were like, but when they hire you, you're gonna get fired because you can't read. And I'm like, yeah. And that's exactly what happened. Exactly what happened.
Wow. Wow. I love it. And I love your story. See, I'm Italian. My given name is not Rudrani Devi. It's Andrina Gaetana Fatima Vergona
I love
Spina. I'm Italian. Both my parents. But my father was, he's passed. My father was Southern Italian, which had a lot of
it. Okay.
slang. And my mother is very proper Northern
Okay.
Italian. So I learned very proper ways of speaking, conjugating verbs, all of it. It's not an easy language, so it was a good thing I started
Yeah.
out with it, that I look back on it. But, and I can sort of read Italian, but I never really, I was raised here.
Does
So,
Italians have a different type of writing?
oh my gosh, it's very different from Spanish. It's like burro in Spanish means donkey or ass, and in Italian it means butter.
Wow. I didn't even know. I didn't even know that.
So, yeah, I mean, and all these different see, the organization that I'm involved with, Access Consciousness, we're in 179
Oh wow.
countries. So before you even jumped on, I had part of my team from Brazil, and of course, he's Brazilian, so he has
Yeah.
an accent. And when I first met him, he barely spoke English. Now he's very
Yeah. Because you.
articulate. I'm always amazed with that someone can
Yeah.
learn as an
Hmm.
adult another language. And to me, it's like learning how to read is like a whole nother language. I'm also am a musician and I can read notes. I've been playing violin since I was 3 years
Wow.
old and was a virtuoso. And so the first thing I learned to read were notes, not
That's
words. And then I ended up being an English minor, and I've written several things and written several books. So when I came across you, I was like, how in the world, as an adult, do you suddenly learn how to read? What were your steps? How did you get
well. You know
there?
what? I don't know if this is the right or the wrong thing. I don't know, I don't know. Because, there's always a scientific way, and people be like, this is the right way. And I'm like, I dropped that. Like, I remember, even now, people try to tutor me and do all these things, and I like it. It's okay. But it is the most boring thing I've ever done in my life. And I just, like, I'm like, why am I doing this? But I do now know I need to do it because I'm not good at it in some sense of the way. Like, I know that I'll do this boring way of learning because I'm not good at it. But the way I like to learn, I implement the reading with something that I absolutely love. I love working out. I love exercising. I was a very active kid, so I loved like staying upbeat and energetic. So today I'm 34 years old. I can't really stay like that, but my energy still screams, give me some activity. So I love exercising. Right. So what I do is I exercise, and in between the exercises, when you get your break, when you get your little, I'll take 5 minutes because I'm like, whatever. I'll read. I'll go into a plank and I'll do a high plank and I'll read like one page. At first I would stutter through it. Like, I wouldn't ask my lady or something like, what does this page say, or something like, or what does this word say? And then I would kind of copy that word. And that started it up. Like, it was like error, correction with like a page. Error, correction, like with a page. So there's times I go back to some of those pages and I'm like, wow, I didn't read this right at all a year ago. That's funny. But then today I'm like, that's hilarious. I can read it better because I've been literally failing my way, like the fun way. So I've been failing every day. Every day I just try to fail at reading, but I don't even know I'm doing it because I'm doing it when I'm working out because I love working out. So I never know I'm even reading. I never even know. Like, it just started to consciously, connect the dots. I think the way teachers teach me is a faster way to I'm learning now to get the whole thing, like comprehension. And I didn't start off with all that. I just started off read, go learn. I didn't know the comprehension and emotions and the connections. You know what the even crazier thing? The godly, and I've said this in my other talk to people, the godly like feeling when you start learning that you're understanding a different language right now. Like, it's weird. I don't know how to explain. Like, when I started to see it, like, oh my God, I get it. I get what's going on. It's like a movie. It's like a movie through the whole book. It was like fireworks, like going off. And then it showed me that I'm like, this is just you just only planted the seed. You haven't even grown yet. You learning that right now, you just got that? That was just the plant. So I'm like, so what happens if I keep going? They were like, man, Nirvana. Know what I'm telling? What's going to be? You don't know.
I know what you mean. It's like when I was in a dance company and you learn the steps and then you see the pieces all coming together with the other dancers and that sense of accomplishment, like, oh man, I actually pulled this off. I don't even remember learning how to read. I don't remember how I learned how to read or how I learned how to dance. And I know what you mean by boring. If something isn't exciting for me, like if I start a project and it isn't moving me or exciting me in any, I mean, I love the way you said this godly feeling or whatever it is, we feel connected to the planet or connected to the universe in a way. If I don't feel that, I won't finish it.
Yeah.
I won't do it.
And that was one of the main kind of like attributes to me, like wanting to take on like reading like a madman. Like, I do not read like the teachers taught me. Like, I'll get off this and I'm gonna go just first thing. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go read this page real quick. Like, why? I'm like, I don't know. I just force it. Like, I'll just be in the middle going to use the bathroom and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna read it real quick. I don't allow myself to just fall into a comfortable space. I just look at it as like washing my hands when they're, because it was told like, hey, you just touch that, wash your hands. And you don't think of like, how many times I washed my hands today? You just did it because it was a necessity to making sure you get your hands clean. So that's kind of how I look at it. But when you go to wash your hands when you're really hungry, that's a headache. It's a small little headache, but it is. You're like, where's the sink at? Let me go. It's the same thing with reading. I'm like, I'm like, if I do not implement this in my actual breathing daily life, you will never read in your actual breathing daily life. Like, you will never get it. Yeah. You will never do it. So I didn't, like you said, I know when I started, but I don't know how I started learning how to read. I don't know what changed. I don't know how, because once you learn something, you can't unlearn it. Like, I can't unlearn that. I know it now. It's like walking. You're like, hey, when did you start learning how to walk? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I just Like, it just happened. I don't know. How did you learn? I'm like, I'm
You
sure
know,
as a baby I fell, climbed on things, crawled, screamed, cried, everything. And then eventually, 34 years old, I'm walking with y'all, talking. So I'm like, that's the same thing with reading. I literally will go to the park every day and just practice. That's it.
I love it. I love it. It's so funny that you talked about
Mhm.
walking, because I don't know if you know any of my backstory. At one point, I was in a wheelchair.
Wow.
I was in India on a meditation retreat. Gosh, 2008, and terrorists came into the restaurant and shot at everybody, and I got hit by my right femur was shattered by an AK-47. My right tricep was shot out, and my neck was grazed, and couldn't walk. Was there dying, and if it hadn't have been for one of the wait staff running out of safety of the kitchen and dragging me into the kitchen, I wouldn't even be talking to you. But it's funny the part you say about learning how to walk because you take it for
Hmm.
granted, and all of a sudden I couldn't walk. I couldn't feel my leg. And the doctors were saying she may never walk
Mm.
again or may never walk unassisted again or whatever it was. And I remember painstakingly having to
Mhm.
relearn how to walk
Mhm.
again because the twitch muscles in your leg, and I knew that my body had cellular
Mhm.
memory. So I would be talking to
Yeah.
it, laying in bed going, you can move, right, leg? You can
Yeah.
do this. We
Mhm.
got this, and
Yep.
eventually, I mean, it took two
Yeah.
years before I was able to walk unassisted, without a cane or without a walker or without whatever. And it took even longer to get all the feeling back in my leg. I mean, it took years. I would have sharp pain, but I didn't have when you lift your leg, you don't even know how you're doing
Yeah.
it. I couldn't get it to
That's what I'm
lift,
trying to tell you. Like, you can't explain it right now because you're not in it. And even when you're in it, you can't tell them, like, I just don't know what's going on. Like, I feel like there's too many things going on. Yes. Yes, that's exactly how it is.
Right.
It's very similar to the brain. That's the best way to explain it. And I believe this. The brain doesn't know any difference from the situations that we get to see in our physical life. The brain only knows the chemical reactions. So what
Yeah.
you went through, like, and what I went through in my time, like I went to prison, it's very similar to your trauma. You had trauma. I had trauma. If we switched each other, the brain would have just what we seen was different than what the brain did. The brain started to connect in different ways. And I started to understand. I'm like, what are the ways of, like, everybody's feeling the exact same thing as you? The exact same thing,
Yeah.
even if the circumstance is different. You'd be like, so you mean to tell me that someone who a child who got a lollipop taken from him, like you say, take a lollipop from a baby, that baby just felt like you felt when you got shot. Fear,
Sure.
everything. Like, it's the same exact thing. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, this is a mental battle. Like, so when you're saying talk to yourself, yes, it's a 100% mental battle. I'm not even telling you about the screaming in my car, smacking myself, going crazy, like feeling like I want to die because I'm trying to pull myself out of a life I was in for 34 years. I don't know the world I'm trying to put myself in. It is all fearful. And I'm literally just, man, I'm going through with resilience of who knows. Like, it's hard to even explain, but I know from going through what you went
Yeah.
through. It's like all I
Yeah.
know is to get up and don't stop. Like, let's do something else. Let's go harder. Let's do it. Let's make it even better than.
I love it. What you're describing is you're basically creating your
Yeah,
life. You're uncreating what this reality appears to have handed
yeah.
you because you realize it's not real
No, yeah.
anyway. You can create whatever you can recreate yourself in any form or
Hmm.
fashion. Here you are mimicking these
Yeah.
actors, which that is that's so cool. I mean, I did things. And guys, well, you've got the right name and you got some beautiful looks there, dude. If you wanted to be an actor, I bet you could do it too.
It's funny.
I'm not
I
joking.
wanted to, but I never pursued it because I couldn't read. I wanted to be a speaker. My thing was always wanting to. I got in trouble for speaking, so I was the kid who immediately was don't talk back. Grown folks are talking. Don't get out of here. Like, you're always in my business. You always. I felt like I was very conscious and aware of what was happening, so I felt like I can implement my 2 cents. Now,
Right.
fast forward to today, I realized that I'm like, if you were smart, you would have gathered all that information and saved it for a day where you can get paid for it. I was like, because people can't, they don't value what you have to say today. They're gonna value what you have to say in 20 years. I'm the child. I know the future. When I look at my 10-year-old kid,
Yeah.
he's the future. He knows the future. He's looking at me. He's like, man, if only Oliver knew to not stress over things that, his past traumas caused him. You know why he knows that? Because he's 10 years old and he doesn't have the childhood traumas I had. So he could see clearer. He can see like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm not going to have any of these issues. So I'm also very ignorant to it. I don't give a crap about that. I'm like, so I have to teach you something
Yeah.
different. I have to teach you emotions. I'm like, oh, so I wasn't taught emotions. My son knows everything else because he
Yeah.
wasn't damaged, but I wasn't taught emotions. Like these things are really important in, growing up. Do you know how it feels to be walking around like Frankenstein? That's what I was. Yeah, I was like Frankenstein. That's what I did.
You the best looking Frankenstein I ever
That's
seen.
that's how my brain functioned. It functioned like
Yeah.
someone who didn't have no understanding of growth or how to become more, or you were like a baby in a grown person's body. Like it's weird to explain to you.
Huh.
But now that I see that, I'm like, hold on, so I can make myself more intelligent. You'd be like, yeah, it might take you another 34 years, but how bad do you want it? And I look at that, I'm like, well, if I have to really be conscious of this, I'm like, for sometimes I get slipped up and I be thinking that I'm living more than one life. So I be thinking like, all right, I'll catch this one on the next life. I'll catch reading on the next life. And then I think about it, I'm like, hold up, this is a scary situation. You mean to tell me that I'm gonna die and never learn how to read and then never, 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 never?
Wow.
And they're like, nah, you kind of thinking you're gonna come back and have one more run at it. Or maybe two more. Or maybe three. If you really think deep
Right.
in it, you're like, no, 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 buddy. Your run can end right now. And you're like, damn, well, that would suck. That would feel like hell. I was like, well, you better get on it because if you want to die and feel like you're going to heaven, you better learn how to read. So there was a fear behind it because I'm like, I have
Wow.
this pain and fear and scared and all this stuff, but I have the ability to do what I know I need to do. But I'm so willing to bargain with the one life I get because of how scared I am. And I'm like, so you're scared
Interesting.
to do things in the world when all life is doing things that you have to do them. Maybe like, but what if I die before? What if this? I'm like, and
Yeah.
and
That's interesting. What I hear you describing is something we call in Access
mm,
X-terrified, where you're so excited that you almost misidentify that energy as being
yeah,
fearful. Because what if you were already this intelligent
mm,
guy, right? It's already in your DNA, it's already in your cellular memory, and all you're doing is
yeah,
activating it. You know what I mean?
yes,
It's like it's within
mm-hmm,
you. Because here you are out creating yourself, like we were talking about earlier in the conversation, y'all, about how Oliver is destroying whatever this persona was and recreating his life the way he wants
mm-hmm,
it to be on his terms,
mm-hmm,
you know. And by the way, you guys, you always have choice. It's like even with choosing happiness, it's just a choice. You can also choose cranky pants. You can also choose to never pick up a book or never learn how to read. You can choose to be lazy. You can choose, or whatever it is, in our lives. I mean, I chose to be a marathon runner. I've run several. I've run 10 full length, I used to run a half a marathon every
wow,
Friday so that I would be
that's amazing.
ready for marathon status. I don't do that
Mm-hmm,
anymore. That was a few years
mm-hmm,
ago. But here I am looking back at my life and going, wow, if anybody else was following along with me, they would think I was crazy for making some of the
same,
decisions that I
mm-hmm,
made to get where I be
mm-hmm,
today. And the thing is, there's some things that I'm not proud of or whatever, but that got me to where I am
mm-hmm,
today. I don't make myself wrong
mm-hmm.
for it. And I know what you mean by fear. I mean, I was driven by fear of never being a success. I thought, and then what is
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
You know, what if we decided success is in our
mm-hmm,
heads? Sometimes it's like, the brain is a terrible thing. We should waste it. Use it for the things that it's going to do. But that part where that mental self
mm,
deprecation stuff goes
mm,
on, sometimes I have to go, wait a minute, is this even mine? Or have I just bought this reality's point of view about how things are supposed to look, how they're supposed
mm,
to be done? All the things. It's like I told you in the video, I'm Italian. I'm from Italian descent and all that. I'm one of six
mm,
kids. And if you were to walk into any of my other siblings' houses, you would see a picture of the Pope. You would see an Italian
mm,
flag. There would be some like something in the kitchen that looked like a big pasta bowl or
mm-hmm.
whatever. You walk into my house, you have no
Yeah,
clue. I just have the things around me that will
yeah,
contribute
yeah, yeah,
to me. My comfortable couch, I like art, so most of the art, I'm looking at some art in my house right now. Most of the art in my house spoke to me somewhere, and I purchased it, and nobody else has
Yeah,
to like
yeah,
it. I don't care. I eat off of fine china every day. Why? Because I
yeah,
can. You know,
yes,
'Cause we might be gone
yes,
tomorrow,
yes.
Oliver.
I think,
We don't know. A bus might take us down, or that'd be a terrible way to
yeah,
go. A stray bullet could have hit me
yeah,
somewhere else, and I wouldn't be talking to you. We just never know. This life is we're like
yeah.
magical, and this life is so precious. And why wouldn't we want to live it to the
Hmm.
fullest?
Yes, I see it. I
So
see everything. Everything you're saying sounds. It's perfect to hear in the morning. I tell you that much because it's the stuff I listen to. I'm like, okay, it grounds me. It grounds me, and it
yeah,
allows me to see the true meanings of what life has to offer. But it also allows me to have sympathy on people who don't want to jump into that world. I can see
yeah,
that. I can see that. I can see easily how hard it is to live in this world. It is not easy. Like, it looks easy from the outside when you're like, he's learning how to read, he's on TikTok, and I'm like, he's doing this and he's trying. I'm like, if you knew the amount of feelings of like frustration and feeling like I'm dying or feeling like there's so
yeah,
many different things, like, because I'm breaking down my own personal, like, restrictions. So these are things that, like, I never thought I knew, like, I could even do. Like, I didn't think I was like capable of doing them. But there was a little voice inside of me that would always say, like, you don't got time. You wasting time. And I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? I'm like, man, you wasting time. And then it would send me like little signals of like little things. Like, it would have these minor little like wake ups of like, what? I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm like, I should not be doing this. And I would be sitting there when I used to drink alcohol, and there's nothing wrong with alcohol, but for someone like me, it wasn't supposed to be for me. I was sent to do something completely different than what other people do. And the reason why I know this is because when I was young, I didn't follow drinking and things. I used to be like, it's just not gonna be for me. But then I fell into it. And I remember
interesting.
being like, how do I drink this beer? And there's nothing wrong with these things. I like people who do the things they do, but for me, I was like, how do I drink this beer? And I used to hate the smell of this, and I hated the way it made me feel. How do I do this? And even that
Yeah,
allowed me to see. I was like, because you practice so much drinking beer, you started to like it. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, there's not a person in the damn world who had their first sip of beer when they were younger and was like, I can't wait to drink this for the rest of my life. No, it took
that's
time.
funny.
So the weirdest thing about it is that's why it's so hard for you to get off of it. You didn't know it was so hard to get on it. You didn't know that. Like, you didn't know. You don't remember the throwing up days, the too many days you got too drunk, the day you were hungover and you're like, I'll never drink again, and then woke up the next week and then drank again. Like, those were processes of
Right.
building up a habit. Now I tried to unbreak that habit. Those things started to fire in my brain. I loved that conversation with somebody that I felt like I could overcome it. Like, I was like, this is my biggest and baddest monster, me. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
Interesting.
I gotta get up every day and feel these feelings. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I would literally be every at 15 minutes. You know what? Maybe I'll just get one sip of a drink. Oh, maybe I'll go over here. And I, 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 I friended that person. I friended that person, and I was like, hey,
Right.
I think I need to spend a lot of time on you. I got a lot of friends. I
Interesting.
need to spend some time on you because you are really, picking my nerves. Like, I never listened to you. I mean, I never not listened to you and did my own thing. I always listened to you. Now I'm gonna stop listening to you. I'm gonna stop doing what you say and listen to you. So I would sit there and be like, dang, this is a mental battle. And it became like a hell. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, and you
Wow.
probably would know, but like every 15 minutes there was something that was making me think I needed to get out of this seat and go. And I was like, no, you do what
Interesting.
I say you do. You do what I say you do. You don't get out of this. And I would be sitting in the seat crying because I want to get up. I want to
Yeah.
move. And I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like that I can't, like, stop telling me to go this place, stop telling me to do this. And I was like, after so long, me and that person started to stop bumping heads. I stopped bumping heads with
Wow.
me. and started listening to myself. I was like, oh my God. And now it's so much easier to move around the world because I don't have so many distractions in my head because I sat with them and had therapy
Sure.
sessions with the drinker, the stealer, the cheater, the liar, the manipulator. I had conversations with them. And now all of those people live in my
Wow.
head and we have a nice, cordial life. We wake up and I'm like, no, 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 no. Don't you start your, it's raining outside. I don't want to go. No, no, no. Stop. It's raining outside. I'm so happy I get to go outside and feel that rain. Because when I was a kid, I would go dance
Right.
in that rain. I have conversations with them, and I'm like, no, don't you do your stuff today. Don't you do your stuff today. We're going out there in that rain. And I could feel it. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, this is the battle that an adult is having. A child doesn't have this because a child runs in the rain, and then
Right.
the parent says, come here, get out the rain. So many times you become an adult and you say, I ain't going out in the rain. You stopped because you got, someone's programmed you to it. So you're like, I hate it. I
Yeah.
hate the rain. You're like, you don't hate the rain. You used to dance in the rain and chase the rainbow. Remember that? What happened to that? And I'm like, I don't know. You'd be like, yeah. Until people told you, stop going out there. Stop doing it. I'm like, now listen to you. And when I listened to me was like, well, rain doesn't seem too bad. Well, cool, man. You can, you just start thinking of things like a kid. You're like, whoa. And I can see that. And I'm like, but that, by the time I get through that, we got a month go by. That wasn't no hour. That was a month of me dealing with it. So now I'm like, and people are like, what happened to you? You went crazy. I seen you. I'm like, I ain't gonna lie to you. I was literally focusing on me and trying to have this conversation with me. It took a month for me to realize that I need to go run in the rain even though it's raining. And they're like, a month? You're like, yeah. So I understood. I'm like, we ain't got time. When you're fixing yourself, it might take 5 years. Then you'll be like, oh, it took me 5 years
Yeah.
to start being kind. You're like, yeah, I had to work on myself for 5 years. And then I come out and people are like, you're such a kind person. I'm like, what? I was in the hospital. I went to the emergency room 20 times. And you're like, wow, would have never knew. I'm like, well, have you ever tried to change yourself? Give it a try. You got an abusive relationship right now? Just walk out the door and never, nothing. Just walk out the door. Don't take nothing. It don't matter. Just don't. If your
Right.
man or your husband or wife is abusive, don't even get up right now from the seat you're in. Hop in your car. Don't take a license. Don't take nothing. And just drive until, if your gas tank's on full, drive until it gets to E, where it stops on E. Drop the car right there and find a way to make a life right where you're at. And people will be like, how do I do that? I'm like, see, now that's what I'm trying to explain to you. I did that. I said, let's go. I'm out. I'm going to California.
You chose for
Yes.
you.
Yes.
That's what
100%.
happened. You finally chose for
Yes.
you. I don't like the smell of beer either.
But I started to love it. I'm not gonna lie to you because it grew on me. But it wasn't my thing. It wasn't my thing. I'll be honest. I look at it now and I'm like, why did I do that? I'm like, because
it's funny.
but it's not bad. People love to do it, but it wasn't my thing. It wasn't my thing.
Right. Right. I totally get it. I totally get it. Wow. I mean, you completely changed your life. Would you say that you're a happy guy now?
Yes, I'm happy because it's a weird thing to say. I'm happy because I'm conscious. I'm conscious and I'm aware of who I am. So I'm so happy the fact of the matter. And I'm like, I'm not gonna die other. Like, I know if I'm gonna die as me. Not even Oliver. That's something my mom gave me. My mom gave me the name. I'm not dying as Oliver. I'm trying to tell you that. I'm not dying as a black man. I'm brown. So I'm trying to tell you that I'm changing my whole brain. So I'm like, I'm not dying like that. I'm dying as me because now I can die. Now I can. You can't die other. That's why a lot of people be scared. That's me too. I was like, when I was in prison for sitting in those cells, I was like, the one thing I thought about was like, what if I die in here and then no one really gets to know who I was? I would tell myself every day, like, well, I'm not a criminal. I'm not this. Like, the news said I'm not. The news is saying I'm an amazing man now. The news is saying that, oh, he's a great Samaritan. He should be in schools. But if you go back 15 years ago, the news was like, he's a thug. He sold guns. He did certain. I'm like, I wasn't that person. I'm not him. I know I am.
You were pretending to be somebody you weren't.
Yes, 100%.
I say that all the time. I'm an infinite being pretending to be Rüdrani Devi. And I'm still here. And if I'm still going to be on this planet, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to help people. I'm going to help myself. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I was such a different person when I got shot. And even then, I was a meditation teacher, peace, love, and understanding, kumbaya, all the stuff, dude. And yet I wasn't really being me. I was being what I thought I was supposed to be in the world. And when I finally let all of that shit go, because let me tell you something, I thought I was happy then. I was in a bad marriage, abusive. I got home and I was like, who is this? I was married to a Latino. Who is this dude? He's, good looking dude. He was always, cheating on me and all this stuff. And I thought, why would I put myself through this? I would never want one of my closest
Nobody.
friends to put themselves through it. Why am I choosing this? And that was the beginning of my journey was, it's kind of a joke. I always say the terrorists did me a
Mm.
favor. They got me out of a bad marriage. They got me out of a bad business
In that way.
partnership. I had a very long time to sit and think about things because for 2 years I'm in a
Mm.
wheelchair, and then I thought, I'm going to run the Boston. I've always wanted to run the
Mm.
Boston. I was training for it. I did that. I wrote my
Mm.
first book and then I was like, what else is
Mm.
there? I kept hitting my
Mm-hmm.
targets and going, as if this is all there is to life, I don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
here. This isn't fun for me. So I finally just started being, it sounds like you, a little
Mm-hmm.
outlandish. You know what I mean? I would do things and people look at me like, what are you? I remember walking on the beach with my girlfriends shortly after I'd learned how to walk again. Not well, I wasn't walking that well. And I knew I was going to be doing the marathon soon. And one of them said to me, okay, now that you're still here, is there something that you would like to do that you haven't been doing? And I said, yeah, I'd like to be performing again. I would love to perform again. And I kid you not, Oliver, like 2 weeks later, a friend of mine was putting a band
Mm.
together and said, would you sing background
Mm.
vocals? So I ended up performing in his band. Then I joined another band. Now I sing backups in like 5 bands. I always have my prop over here,
That's
right?
amazing.
And I have my own band
Mm-hmm.
now, and I'll tell you, I mean, I'm an older lady. A lot of people will be like, "What are
You
you
know.
doing?" If you friend me on Facebook, you can see the show we did last weekend where I'm wearing boots, up to my kneecaps and a skirt that's like I can't even show you. I'm gonna back up so you can. I mean, my dress is like this short, and then boots up to here. And a lot of people are like, "What do you know? You're older than my
Mm.
mom. What are you doing up there on
Mm.
stage?" And the thing is I'm not
Mm.
afraid anymore. I'm not afraid of being who I be. I mean, I may not sound like Aretha, but I'm not afraid to sing her. You make me feel like a natural woman, woman. It's like
I love it.
you don't have to ask me to sing
Yeah.
once, and
Yeah.
I'll
I
do it.
love that. See that's
It's
yeah.
like when I see the fire in you, I'm just I'm so happy for you that you
I'm
chose
happy for
you.
you.
You're so inspiring to me. I mean, I got to tell you, it wasn't a minute after I saw you on the show that I reached out to my assistant because she has mad skills. You met her earlier before we got to talking, Alyssa, and she found you. I was like, I got to find this dude. He's such an inspiration. And, and here's the thing, you're magical. I love that you're acknowledging you. There are so many people that could just take a page from your
Mm.
book, and know that they can choose their
Mm.
happy. Because we don't have to, you guys out there listening, you can always choose something
Mm.
different. You can always choose something different. It's up to you. Nobody can do it for you, right? We can be inspiring for you. We can show you that, we were a certain way and now we're this way or whatever it
Mm.
is. You really can change it. And the thing is y'all, we're walking, talking miracles. The fact that we can even be on this beautiful planet, that we get to go out in
Mm.
the rain, or we
Mm-hmm.
get, I don't know, all the
Yeah.
things. It's like, that we get to talk
Yeah.
to people, that we get to work out. We're
Man.
miracles.
Mm.
And once you actually acknowledge that and step into it, you'll
Mm-hmm.
see.
Yeah.
It's all up to
Yeah.
you,
I mean, a
right?
lot of
So,
people need to see the true like meaning of life, like for themselves. It's not what I'm telling you. It's not. I'm telling you
yeah.
my true meaning. It's what's going on for what's best for me. But then you have to
Right.
evaluate yourself and just say, I'm telling you, I rollerblade. I do so many. I'm practicing.
I
Yeah,
do too.
doing handstands right now. And like you said, like I understand, and it's even more scary to me the fact that I haven't lived like this my whole life. I'm so frustrated
Mm.
because I'm like now I it's my duty to show people out there who don't have it, who are looking for that spark, who are and I'm like when you hear these like cliche like quotes like the sparks are the it's within you. When people say things like that, I'm like, people don't fully get it. Where I'm like, no, like, it's literally within you. You know how weird that is when I started to actually think about the fact that I'm like, hold on. So, like, I've never seen myself other than on a mirror or TV. I'm like, that is wild. I'm like, so I'm in here. I'm in here. You're like, yeah, dude. Like, if you ever watch Men in Black and the dude opens up his head and there's a guy like controlling his brain,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's you. You in there. You up in. I'm like, but why the heck does it feel like it's a really like the volume's down? And why does that
Yeah.
person sound so like whisperish? Like, this is the craziest thing that I started to understand. I was like, because the noise is like you said, it's the you old, you the old, you those words that were just floating in time, you took them, you carried them on to you. You held on. Me, I did that. You dumb, you're stupid, you're this, you're that, whatever. I held on to those things. Like those were my words of choosing for up here. The wildest thing about that is that if you like it or not, if someone says something negative to you, you learned it. So if someone says, "Oh man, don't walk off that curb," and you twist your ankle, as a kid, I was like, "What? What do you mean I could twist my ankle? I don't know what that means." Like, you just put you on me. I would have probably never twisted my ankle on the curb, but now I'll be cautious of this curve or something. You know what I mean? Like that. But I started to understand. I was like, oh, the reason why you became silent is because everybody else is speaking too loud inside of your head. So I started to understand. I was like, so that was something that grew on me, because I didn't always have that. I'm 34 years old now, and I'm hearing that this people louder than I did when I was a child, way louder than I did. When I started to read, and not just read, when I started to read things that I want to read, that I want to do, that go in my liking, that voice got louder than the other voices in my head. So I was like, oh my, like you're in there. If you're ingesting negativity for 20 years, you're going to be negative in 20 years. If you're ingesting positivity for 20 years, you're going to be a voice of positivity in 20 years. And I didn't understand that that's an exercising habit. Like, you can't stop it. You can't stop doing that. If you stop doing it, that the world is negative. So if you go on TV, if you just watch the news, you that's it. It's over. It's over. That's it.
I know.
It's over. You go on the
All these implanted points of view of how you're supposed to be in society and all this stuff. And Oliver, none of it's real.
It's
None of it's real. It only becomes real and true when two or more people decide it's real and true. Then it's real. But other than that, it's like, implanted points of view. I remember my dad telling me when I showed you that bodybuilding picture earlier, I remember him telling me when I was 15, 16, he goes, you have your looks now, but you're not going to always have them. You better marry young. You're not very smart.
That's
And I went to college on an academic scholarship. And I went at 16. I kept running away from home, Oliver, because my dad was
I was
really
going to say, that sounds
abusive.
really.
So I married someone very similar, obviously, with implanted points of view. You only show the love you know. Oh, they're mean to me because they care. What the hell does that mean? Right? Makes no sense. But it's like, I'm only telling you for your own good. I know what you're saying, because you're like a kid going, for my own good. I don't even know what you're talking about. Or our children should be seen and not heard. So we're supposed to be mute? Really? Is that the way this reality wants us to be? Where did you grow up, honey?
I grew up in Pennsylvania.
Oh, and you got this nice white boy name, Oliver James.
That's what they did. Yep, that's what they did. That's exactly.
And then you moved to California? Where do you live now?
I live in California now.
So when did you move to California?
2 years ago. This, like I told you, I can tell you, there's an interesting kind of little story. I was going to go to Florida because COVID happened, and I was running a fitness gym in Pennsylvania, and the guy that I used to rent the gym out from, an amazing man. He's done so much for me in that time to just help me see that I can be more. He was a very successful guy who just had very select words on, what he wanted to, help me on. He took me in a way of like friended me. He was an older gentleman. He was in his 60s, and he friended me. And I didn't take it for granted. I really tried to pay attention as much as I can and do everything I can. He would call my bluff all the time. He would be like, Oliver, you want to run your own gym? I'm like, yeah, I could do it. Next day, he'd like, all right, go see my secretary. You're going to get a gym. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, we're going to figure out how to get you a gym. I got one here, and we're going to turn it into a gym. And I'm like, how? What? And I would see myself like willing to back out, but I'm like, he's serious. Because I would see his life and I would like, he don't play games. When he says do it, do it.
Yeah.
So I just did it. I failed and I made it happen. COVID happened and he kind of sold the building, but he didn't leave me high and dry. He was like, listen, what I'm gonna do for you. I'm getting rid of the gym. You've built up a success here. You know, you're actually making a living here. This is amazing. He was like, but you know, COVID happened, man, and things changed. You know, he was like, what you want to do, Oliver? I was like, I want to keep training, but you know, I don't know how to do it. This is all I really know how to do. He was like, well, think of something and come back to me. I went home and I was like, I want to buy a van and put all my equipment in the van and drive to people's houses and try to train them in their parking lot. And he was just like, sounds good. He was like, sounds
Wow.
good. Go see my assistant. He bought me the van. He was like, all right, we're gonna buy you this one, the one I'm in. And he was like, go, here's your van. And I was like, he was like, now go get the stuff. And I literally, that moment, started packing the same day, packing the van up and sending messages through social media. Don't even know, I couldn't even text. I remember if you see some of the messages, they're all people would message me and be like, hey, you spelled this wrong, Oliver. They didn't know I didn't know how to read. People would literally message me like, Oliver, you did this wrong. Your flyer's wrong, Oliver. And I'll be like, oh, sorry about that.
Oh my
Even people would
God.
help fix them. Like they'll be like, oh, I'll make it for you and send it to you. And I'm like, all right, thank you. Like they didn't know I didn't know how to read. They just thought I was making mistakes. And the winter came. And I was like, oh, now people don't want to train in their homes. We were training in the parking lots, parks, you know, business parking lots, stuff like that. And it stopped. And I was like, I just finally seen what it looks like to be like successful. Like I could make this happen. Like I could get 50 trucks if I wanted to. I could do it. Like I could see that picture. And then I was like, but I can't do it here. Not in Pennsylvania with COVID and all this. This is not going to work. So I was going to go to Florida. So we took a trip out to Florida, visit my brother and everybody. And I was going to go to Florida and just be on the beach for 6 months and just train people on the beach and every day. And as I was doing that and talking to my brother, we set it all up. I had a date to go out there. It was like the next week. He, a buddy from mine from California, he used to live in Pennsylvania. You know, we didn't talk much when we were, you know, throughout these years. It was like 5, 6, 7, you know, years, you know, when he moved away. And he was just, you know, more of a childhood, like high school friend when we were growing up. And amazing dude. And he just called me. He was just like, hey, man, like him and another friend of mine were like, come to California, bro. No reason. Just call me on Instagram. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
First of all, why are you calling me? He's like, oh, I've been seeing you on Instagram, dude. I think you're just doing some amazing stuff with your van and do that. He's like, but you're doing it in the wrong place. You need to come to California. That's a California thing. And I was just like, say less. Hung up the phone. And I was like, hey,
Say less.
I hung up the phone and I'm like, let's go to California. And I literally went in the kitchen, told my lady, I'm like, I'm going to California next week. And she's just like, what? I'm like, I got this. I know something's telling me to go. I'm going. And I literally packed up the van. We put the beach in California because I only knew like Long Beach because of Snoop Dogg. I only knew like Compton because of LA. You know, I only knew Orange County White Housewives because of the TV show. I didn't know nothing about nothing. So I was like, destination, most beautiful beach in California. And that's it. And I stopped at the beach. I went over there, went to the beach the same day, worked out, held a sign up to people. Like the sign was like personal trainer. I'll train anybody, for whatever I wrote on it. I still have my sign. And I ran around that beach every day for 6 months.
Dang.
Crying, sleeping out there, doing everything just by myself. My lady went back to Pennsylvania. She stood out there for a week with me and went back to Pennsylvania. I was alone. And I would call her every day and she'd be like, keep going, baby. You got this. And she'd be like, I know you got this. And I'm like, I'm going to get this apartment. I'm going to do this. I know it's and I would just every day be crying. I'm not even lying. Like, how do I do this? I don't even know how to do what I'm doing. I would just do it. And finally got a little break. Somebody come up and they're like, hey, here's my card, man. I like what you're doing. I see you out here sometimes, man. Give me a call. I'm like, oh, the consistency. Now people were like, hey, I see you out here. You were out here 6 months ago. Man, you still out here? You know what? I'll train. You know what? Give me your card. You got a card? And I'm like, and it started happening. People started to see like, this dude's not playing. And then I started to get clients. When that happened, I was like, this is not, this, like you said, this ain't it. What you really want to do, oh? I was like, Oliver, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to learn how to read, man. I want to learn how to read and I want to become one of the best motivational speakers in the world. And everything just snapped. And I was like, one on Instagram, I quit personal training. I'm a motivational speaker now. That's literally what I did. I did on Instagram way back. People were like, what? Sending me messages. I was like, I quit training. I'm going to finish off any clients I have for the time I have for this, for whatever it is. And I'm done.
Yep.
I'm going to be the best. I told Instagram, I'm going to be the best motivational speaker in the world. And I wanted to. I just could not get it out of my head. And since then, I thought it was going to be like I seen on TV. And I realize now, I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm probably going to be I'm going to be one of the best motivational speakers in the world, but it's not going to be of my liking what I thought. It's what my fears, not people are going to want to hear the real fears, the not knowing how to read,
Yeah.
my social anxiety, OCD. I have severe OCD, mental. I have so many things that I'm overcoming. Yes, so many things.
Same. I'm autistic. I have OCD. I have
Yeah.
ADHD and autism all rolled into one. And I don't take anything for it because for me, it's my
Yep.
superpower.
Yeah.
It keeps me motivated. It keeps
Yep.
me going. And
Yep.
it's me. I'm not going to apologize. I don't need to take a drug to tone
Nope.
it down.
I
You
like
know,
you just like you are.
dude, I got your back, man. I have got your back. I actually teach a class called Right Voice for You about stepping into all
Mhm.
of you unapologetically. And the next time I facilitate it, I want to gift that class
That's
to you.
dope. People got to understand, like even myself, oh, I'm telling you, motivation, all these things, they don't stay. The only person who
Mm-mm.
stays is you. You literally got to sit there and be like, we do this. No, we
Hmm.
cry, but then when we done crying, we get out there and smile. That's what
That's
we do.
right.
We do that. Not everybody else may not. Everybody else may say, hey, dwell on this, soak on this. No. We do this. We cry and then we get up and then we go figure out that next move. How we do it, I have no idea. So where I'm at right now, my position
Yeah.
now, I'm still in that fight. Like I changed my whole. I'm on welfare. I want you to understand this. I'm not making any money or anything. I'm on welfare. So like my life is not like, oh my God. And
Yeah. You're on your way
yeah,
though, dude. You are
I'm
on
on
your
welfare.
way. I can see you having a private jet and the whole deal.
Do you
You know
know
what I'm
what's weird
saying?
about it though? I'm on welfare and I was on Jennifer Hudson. I'm on welfare and I was on Rachel Ray show. I was on Good Morning America and I'm on welfare. I'm talking to these millionaires. I'm poor. I'm like, and think
Wow.
about it. I'm sitting next to Jennifer Hudson. She telling me I'm amazing. I'm like, hey, I don't know if you know, but I'm on welfare. I'm like, you the amazing one. Like, what you talking about? So
Wow.
like, to me, I started to understand that I was like, no, that amazing character doesn't come from, like you said, what the world put on you. People who got
Yeah.
successful, they know it's not the world's opinion, it's theirs. So when they're
Hmm.
seeing me, they're like, oh, this dude, he me. Jennifer Hudson seeing me on the couch and Rachel Weisz seeing me in her show, and she's like, he got that spark. And what I do for them is make them remind themselves of how far they've come because they're like, oh, you got that
Yeah.
spark. I remember waitressing at such as, oh, you got it? You got the spark? And I feel it. I'm like, yeah, I got it. And they're like, you don't, Oliver, you can't mess this up. You can't. You cannot mess this up. Your mess up is gonna be
Hmm.
your gift. I went online and told people I'm a manipulator, abuse. I verbally abused my relationships. I told the world, told them all my secrets, and told them that that's not me. And literally, they were like, "Now we're gonna hire you for that." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, what do you mean? We're gonna hire you. We're gonna
Yeah.
hire you to come on our show to talk about these things, and then eventually we're gonna probably pay you for it. And I'm like, but what about all these things that I was lying about, like the good things? They're like, no, like, let me tell you something. We know you not that. We can see right through that. We see this is who you
Hmm.
are. And that when I started to do that, they're like, now comes. It's like the gates open up, and they're like, come on, come speak,
Yeah.
baby, come speak.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why you want to speak to me now? Is it because you're being authentic? You're being
Yeah.
you. We need.
You're willing to be all of you, warts and
That's it.
all, and let your miracle, let your light shine through. I could definitely see you doing a TED
I'm
talk.
working on it. So I'm just
You know,
it's a hope.
why
It's a
not?
dream. Like these are stepping stones that I just had my first motivational speech in Maryland yesterday. So that's where I was at in Maryland. They flew me out there to have a speech about like, the importance of like, talking to educators about how kids like me develop. What do they turn into? How can they break that link of, prison, this, that, like how can they break out?
Yeah.
And I was kind of just, I was excited because I was like, I don't need I might need to put my speeches together with a professional in a way because I don't have that educational way, but I don't need
Mhm.
their help on how to present what's important. I just need to learn how to present it in a more professional way. So I started to realize I'm like, you are literally a walking dictionary for what people want to know in this category. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So my entire life experience it's a book, Oliver.
Yeah.
People need to know they need to know this transition because you broke out of it and now there are other people who can't. So teach kids like you to
Yeah.
break out. And that's when I started to see those things. I'm like, oh my God, like my fears, everything that's holding me back. The world needs that from you. You were put on this world because you are a special person to present these things.
Mm-hmm.
Most people will not do this. They will not do it. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, and I have
you're
no,
correct.
I like it. I get up for it. I'm like, let's go
Uh-huh.
talk. Let's go do something. Let's go. I'm like, but think about it. You used to do that as a kid, and that's why you got suspended from school.
Yeah.
That's why you got beat up by friends, and that's why you got in so many issues. That's why you went to prison. But now you're using the thing that everyone hated to build you. Now it's your, like you said, it's your gift. Your ADHD, your hyperactive personality, your can't, all that is becoming a strength for you. Like you were saying, it's your gift that the world wants to see.
My superpower. Absolutely. We actually have classes in Access. We call people like us X-Men
Oh,
because we're able because we're so aware. We're aware like thousands of miles out of what's going
yeah,
on, and it's so loud in our
yeah,
heads, that the only way that we can break through is to have these other mad
yeah.
skills. And that's, so we have all these classes on X-Men, and I think you'd actually like Access Consciousness. You may want to Google
It
it and
sounds,
see
I'm
more.
yeah, I'm very interested in things like this because I've always been this type of person. But you have to understand, I didn't even know what consciousness was. So I was already
Yeah.
conscious. I was already having these things. I look back at my 21-year-old me. That boy was a bull. He was so strong. I'm like, you were a little puppy. How were you so resilient to emotions? Or how did you
Yeah.
get up and go do that? Like, how did you go every day and do that? And I'm like, I don't know. So because you were giving the gift of that. Like, I have the gift of like seeing it and go, let's put some energy in it. Let's go, let's go. And they're like, not everybody has that. Like, I can wake up in the morning on a bad side of the bed and be like, all right, well, let's go laugh. And they're like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I was born with that. I've been that way my whole entire life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like these things, like I'm telling you, like they're magical. But I will tell you this: if you don't know them, they will pry on you in the opposite way. And that I didn't
Yeah.
know it. It eats you. You can't escape it. Like I would try to escape it. That's why I drank and did because I was trying to drown it out. I was like, stop. Like,
Sure.
but it's like no. Like you said with X-Men, you have a superpower, dude. When you're drowning your superpower, that emotion, like I have very wild emotions inside. And I know I'm a very emotional person. Like I know I can connect to people emotionally very easy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I used to hide this or do, and I'm like, you're literally tampering with your inner being. Stop doing that. And I'm like, why am I doing these things? I was like, because you have. This is the wildest thing to think. I was like, because you have this important mechanism. You have this important machine. I've heard this too before, and you don't know the rules to your machine, Oliver. Like you don't know the rules. You don't know how to. Where's your instructions? And I'm like, yeah, oh my gosh. I'm like, has anybody ever give you instructions to you, the machine? And I'm like,
Right.
no. I kind of
They try,
yeah,
dude. They
yeah.
try.
But you start to realize that the
You know?
instructions are. You have the instructions. You'll hear it. You'll be like, okay, get up and read. And then you're like, okay, that's you. That's you. That's you right there. And then it'll say, but it's getting late, time's running this, and then I'm like, oh, so those are all the other ways that people put on you. You have the instructions to your machine. I feel a little, tired. Like I feel like I've been, gaining weight. I'm like, okay, it's time to stop eating those type of foods, eating better. And they're like, you won't listen to it. You'll literally be like, forget them. But those are your instructions to your machine. Stop
Yeah.
that. Like and you don't put water in a gas tank. You're like, you don't do that. Doing
Right.
that. It's like do the right thing. And I'm like, that's when I started to realize I was like, okay, so I have all the instructions. I just have to follow through. That's it.
Trust you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to trust what
Yeah.
I'm saying. It may not be right for you guys. Trust your inner
Mm-hmm.
knowing and know that you always
Mm-hmm.
know, you know? And man, I'm going to have you back on the show again because you're amazing. And the thing is I want to follow up with you too. I don't want to lose
That's
track of
great.
you,
Why
you
should
know?
we?
If that's okay with
Yes. Why
you,
should we? I mean, if we
because, I live in Nashville,
okay.
Tennessee.
By the way, I've been to Nashville. I've actually loved Nashville when I went there.
Yeah, you need to come
I
back and
love it.
visit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll get you on some talk
Yeah. Nashville's
shows.
cool.
Um,
Nashville's a cool place.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. We got lots of music
Yes.
here. I know you do in LA also, but we got some nice
Yep.
music here. So if you were going to leave one thing with our listeners, and I know you've given us a plethora of very interesting and useful, I think, pearls of
Yeah.
wisdom. Um, if you were gonna leave them with something, what would that be? Like, this is your tagline.
I would tell them, easiest way to put it, all the secrets that you're looking for, like every secret, every just down to the, if you're a young person in high school who just went through a breakup, and then, trust me, when you're going through that, that's like the end of the world. Like,
Yeah.
there's a book. The secret's in the book. Like, it's not in your friend, it's not in your mom. Like, you can ask them, but when you're done, go get a book and just take some time and read through what's going on, the emotions, the changes, the growth. Like, I'm going from 16 to 18 or 40 to 50. Like, read it. And by the time you're done with that book, you will have, before you react to anything, read a book. Even if you get fired from a job, go home and read about what can I do to overcome getting fired from a job. Finish the book first. When you finish the book, you will have changed the trajectory of your entire being. What I'm basically saying is, the best part about a book is that it's giving you a new outlet toward changing your life. So you don't gotta, you read this book and you're like, I never read this. I never read that. So if I read that book, no matter what, I will find something that will make me a happier person. No matter what. And the thing is, it's not today. It'll come as a tool for when you need it. So 10 years from now, that book I read 10 years ago might come in handy. So you've been like, what do you do? I'm like, you're building up armor towards all of the things that life throws at you. It's an armor. You're never going to escape the people coming at you or things coming at you. What you do is you're building up a way to be able to resist some of the things that you get hit with because you practiced before it came. So you're like, oh my gosh,
Right.
I'm going to read about a divorce because, you probably might get one in the future, especially if you're going through many breakups today. That means that you're probably not doing the right things in relationships. So start reading about the future of like, what would it be like? This and that. And then all out of nowhere, you might find a perspective to be like, why am I chasing getting married? And I'm like, 14
Yeah.
years old. Now you see, you just heard from someone who went through the whole thing. Now you're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I'm going to go do that. I'm like, yes, like it's in the books. Everything you want is in the books.
Yep. I love
Yes.
books.
Yeah. Yes.
We teach a lot of classes in Access. We have one called Divorceless Relationships. It's so funny that you're talking about another one called Relationship. Do you really want one?
Yeah.
Because we've bought and sold what this reality has told us is real and true for us. And what if it wasn't? What if you could read someone else's experience and learn from it?
Yes.
I'm waiting for your book, Oliver James.
I'm on the process of right now, and this is the wild thing about this. And I'm going to tell you right now, I want you to have the honest answer. I have no idea how to write a book. I have no desire to do it because of how fearful I am of it. I hate anything.
I teach a creative writing class too, my dear.
I am so fearful of it, but this is the wild thing about it. I'm telling you right now, every bone in my body is saying, don't even try to approach that. But I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to do exactly what I don't want to do. So I want you to understand right now, from if you get this and you're like, man, you will get a book. I'm trying to tell you now, you will not get a book. You will get a book. The reason why I'm saying that, because I read Diary of Anne Frank. And luckily I read that, right? So I read that book. That was my first book I read. If you don't get a book, and it took me a while, I read it on, that's how, TikTok. That's why I went kind of viral on TikTok. If you don't get,
my God, Anne Frank is not an easy book to read,
I cried almost every day. So I went through a lot. that time. Trust me, I went through, it wasn't even about it. I went through transition because I'm trying to tell y'all something, and this is how life is. Even if I die before the book comes, you've got videos of me on social media. You've got podcasts. You have my lady, which I'll sign a consent to tell her, hey, if something happens to me, and like if a car accident or whoop-de-whoop or whatever it is, that book need to get written. I'm going to go on TikTok.
Yep.
Just because, and I'm trying to tell you, I want the world to know this. I'm going to go on TikTok and Instagram today, and I'm going to tell the world, no matter what, I'm writing a book. So if no matter what, I want to make sure that a book from Oliver James gets out into the world. I'm going to say that today. So then when something in the future goes down, they're like, no. His book needs to get written. It don't matter. Write his book. Diary of Anne Frank got written. She ain't, listen, if she you feel me? That was a diary. You just don't understand what I'm trying to tell you.
Dude, I do feel you. You're using my words too. Yeah. So funny. Huh? I said, you're using my words too. I was like, feel me?
Yeah.
You feel me? It's
Yeah,
real.
it's going to
This is
it's
real.
going to happen. But I want you to know that it's going to happen with the same thing you feel. I have no idea how to
Yep.
write a book. None at all. It is the most scariest thing in the world. Yes, the best is yet to come. Yes, 100%.
I have stuff like that all
I
over my
love it.
house. I've got one over here that says, "Be happy, it drives
I
people
love it.
crazy." And then the one back here said, what does it say? I'm not here to be average, I'm here to be awesome.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much for being my
Thank
guest.
you for having me.
Where can people find you? We know we can find you on Ticketed Talk.
Well, I'm, and again, I'm in the process of building up every single social media that I can. But from not knowing how to read, I do it alone, and it's not an easy thing. I'm telling you. So I have Twitter now. It's all Oliver Speaks One. I have YouTube, Oliver Speaks One. I have Instagram, Oliver Speaks One, and TikTok, Oliver Speaks One. I'm working on a Patreon right now and a Discord. People are helping me. They're helping me.
Patreon. I love Patreon. I'm getting ready
I'm working
to
on it.
use. I'm set up for it, but I haven't actually started
Yeah.
using it yet. I'm waiting for the podcast to really take off. This is my second. The first one was Get Happy Podcast, and then I shut that one down for about a year and a half, and this one's Choosing Happiness. So
Okay.
I'm Rüdrani Devi, the happiness lady. Thank you so much again for being on my
Thank
show,
you.
Oliver James.
Yes.
I'm keeping up with your ass because I know the greatness you be, and I can't wait to see what you're going to create.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you guys, if you guys know of people that could benefit from this conversation, please share it with them. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, all the things. All right, until next time, y'all.
Thank you so much for choosing happiness. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, share, and give us a like. And if you want more happy, subscribe to the Choosing Happiness membership where you can play directly with me, Rüdrani Devi, the happiness lady. How does it get any better than that?